Welcome to I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. Boy, oh boy, we got an entire mess to talk about here with the Nico Iamaleava situation, the departure from Tennessee, the supposed transferring commitment to UCLA, what his new NIL deal is, what that money does, and how far it goes in LA compared to what he's going to get in Tennessee. Tyson, this entire thing is a complete mess, and we're going to discuss, not just the Nico thing, but the Tennessee angle, how this impacts future NIL deals. Now, again, we're not like business insider guys. It's just kind of like we've been following college football for a long time. And I do think there's a little bit of pushback here, but we got a lot to discuss in this situation. And Tyson, we always say the NFL never sleeps. This is such an SEC college football story that came out of this.
Well, that's like part of the reason I think during conference realignment that the SEC was like, we have to add Texas because they're the only ones that can do consistently as wild stuff as we do in the offseason. This is insane. Like what's wrong with NIL? What's wrong with this era of college football? Where can it go wrong? And the whole time it was like, well, they don't sign like this is going to happen. Like, and then it happens with a guy that didn't perform as well as maybe would be believed a year ago. Like he was good, and he's so highly touted out of high school because of NIL. It was like, I can't believe they're paying this kid this much money to come play at Tennessee, and then just to throw a bag away at 20 years old, and I don't know if we're going to get into the family dynamics and drama too much there. It's not necessarily our business, but like to have your dad shopping you around and all of this stuff, it's like, brother, like this has to be, how Chris Carter gives speeches or used to the NFL rookies. Somebody needs to sit every college football freshman in the country needs to sit at a meeting where they just put Nico's face up there and say, do you want to cost yourself $3 million?
And that's the thing. So he's reportedly was going to be paid $2 million by Tennessee this year from his original NIL contract. And we put the contract in air quotes because, like Tyson said, they're not bound by anything. Like these guys can go in, and because in the NCAA, it was caught with their pants down, of course, because that's just how it works at the NCAA with this whole NIL thing, that they were not prepared for any of this stuff. So there's no binding contract. There's nothing. And these guys can turn around and do whatever they want, right? Like at least when coaches leave, and I know the Jay Billis thing is always like, oh, well, coach is going to do it all the time. Yeah, but they have to pay a buyout. These kids don't. Dude. Like that's the thing where we're at here. And so, and we all knew it was going to be a mess. Everybody knew it was going to be the Wild West. And like, yeah, it's just like with like the athletes who dope and like get ahead of like the doping agencies, they're at the forefront. It's the testing bodies that have to catch up to everything. So all the parents and agents, whatever, who are going to get ahead of the loopholes, all those lawyers, they're way ahead of the NCAA, and that shouldn't be a shock to anybody here. So whenever NIL, we get a situation like this, of course, that was always going to be the end goal because we all know how it's going to work. This is probably, besides maybe the Jaden Rashada thing, Tyson, and like the jury's still out on if Rashada is any good. But this Nico thing, I think, is a complete timestamp of where we're going to look at NIL in the next few years. Because not only is the house settlement where we're going to have rev share, is that going to get rid of collectives? How is that going to work? Is there going to be a salary cap? Things like that. We don't know. But this was Tennessee saying, you're going to try to strong arm us? What are you talking about? F off. You're not getting more money. You're already getting paid $2 million, and go see what you can do on the outside. Kick rocks. I think this is a fundamental mentality change because before, Tyson, I want to get your opinion on this. How many times would we hear, or maybe we even wouldn't hear, but we just hear the coaching staff or the school, they kind of bit to the demands because, that's college football. That's recruiting nowadays. This, to me, Tennessee was like, no, we're not paying you that money.
Yeah, I think probably after he skipped the spring game was when Hypo was just like, that's enough. Like, because they probably knew some of this was going on anyways. And, there's the reports he tried to sit out of the playoff game and the bowl game. We don't know if that's true. He's on Instagram right now, like 30 minutes ago, posting, it's not true and blah, 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 making jokes about it. But, like, one of the points you just brought up there with the buyouts for coaches, that should, like, schools should probably have to pay each other. Like if you're going to take my quarterback or you're going to be shopping, you want to pay him $300 million. Well, you owe me this, but that requires signing some of these things. And that's just never going to happen. I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point. On Nico specifically, this is the biggest NIL thing. Like just like a couple weeks ago, I might've said it was old boy from Kansas that's transferred 14 times or whatever in basketball. It's getting to the point where somebody had to do this, and the fact that Tennessee had the guts to just say, we'll be fine. Like we've been putting guys in the league that probably don't deserve to be there. Like Hendon Hooker tore his ACL and goes in the 4th round. And if he goes to UCLA, Hendon Hooker's probably not playing in the NFL. Like, let's just call it how it is. And so, yeah, Hypo gets to believe in himself because he's shown he can do it. But if you're transferring from Northern Illinois, where you're making $150,000 in NIL or whatever it is, let's say, and it doesn't go well, they're going to take you back. Like Tennessee was in a position here to say, no, dude, see you. And I think that the top teams can kind of maintain that, but that middle level, like they're never going to not get got when somebody wants the guy they have.
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of set the picture here too, because we're talking about Tennessee, who desperately needed their next star, right? And that's why it was so shocking when they got Nico, because let's not forget, Tyson, you talked about him being a highly touted recruit. I mean, this is the top 3 kid, top 2 in the nation, number 1 quarterback, number 2 quarterback, however you want to look at it, in his recruiting class in the 2023 class. So this was a huge win for Tennessee. And so, yes, was it a quote-unquote overpay at the time? Perhaps. And when you saw him play last year, it was so like, crazy. All right, there's times when he was really good against bad teams, right, or poor athletes and what they had, compared to some of the other guys in the country. We're like, well, maybe they should be making more. Nico looked like he was a freshman, and we want to see what he's going to do. But to come off that and be like, no, we want more money, I can see why Tennessee pushed back. Now, we also talked about this from the Nico angle. What are you doing, dude? You're the freshman starting quarterback at Tennessee who won a national championship with T. Martin, who everybody talks about as a legend. Like, what has he done after that? The home of Peyton Manning, Reggie White. How many names we have to go through that's been playing football at the University of Tennessee, and you're the starting quarterback as a freshman. You're the face of the program. You're going to get better. You're going to get 3 years.
Had to run the ball because you didn't throw the ball good enough.
And now you're going to go back to the negotiating table like, hey, we want more money. I mean, it's just insane that's where we've gotten to here in college football. And Tyson, it shouldn't surprise us that I don't think there were a lot of people impressed around the sport here. And now the reports, Colin Cowherd being the first, like one of the first report that he is now committed. Now it's not official yet, but the transfer to UCLA, where his reported new NIL deal is going to be $1.5 million, which after taxes in California is going to be $800K. I mean, this is insane. And it's an insane story all the way around.
No, it's a huge fumble. Again, it's just got to be a teaching moment for everybody else. Like if you're the number 1 player in the country, like Carson Beck can do it because Georgia kind of gave him the boot, and he's been around for a while. And like Miami can squint and say we can do what we just did with Cam Ward with Carson Beck or whatever. But like Nico made the playoffs. Nico wasn't good enough like to win some, and they got blown out. Ohio State killed everybody, and that it just is what it is. But to conduct yourself like you were Cam Ward from a season ago, or like this is Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson off a Heisman or something. It's like $4 million, dude. You're making in whatever. I'm not gonna get into. I don't want to count his pockets or anything, but like the whole world knows you fumbled, and now all NFL executives look at you as the guy that, for better or worse, it's going to come off as a guy that quit on his team. Like you're going to go to meetings with these guys in the next couple of years, getting ready to get drafted. And you're going to have to answer a million questions about this, and it's just never going to leave you.
Yeah, and I think we don't necessarily want to get into the family thing, but I mean, Tyson, that's the story here. It's it's an overzealous football dad. How many times we heard that story?
Stupid.
He overplayed his hand. And it's going to cost the kid. That's the sad thing. Now, is Nico going to turn down $4 million? No. I mean, was he? I don't know if he was necessarily out there being like, I want more money. But this is his dad acting as his agent saying, no, he deserves more money. And Tennessee's like, no, he doesn't. Did you just watch the same season that we just had? And so it's sad. Now, maybe Nico is driving the force. Like, I should be getting paid more money, and we don't know.
So there's no way he didn't know, brother. There's just no way he didn't know this was going on.
And I think especially because it is the family thing, right? Like if it's some random agent and it's like, oh, he's kind of being scummy, especially in college sports. How many times we heard that? Like, yeah, there's been a lot of stories in college athletics where the agent has more interest than the college kid, and they take advantage of the young kid. But if it's his dad, yeah, I do think there's some family conversations going on here. But again, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything here, but it is an angle, right? Like, because this is clearly his dad trying to negotiate on behalf of his son, and he overplayed his hand. Anything else you want to talk about Nico specifically? Because I do want to get into what this means for the future of NIL.
No, not really with Nico specifically. Shout out to Dan Lanning being the biggest winner of this whole thing because interests can align, and then he gets to come off as a good guy, and then maybe also get some conference hate drove up for UCLA here. So Dan Lanning, biggest winner of this whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. How does this impact the future NIL stuff? I'm not quite sure, right? Like, we're not NIL insiders. I'd love to have somebody on who kind of, Pete Nakos, I believe, was the first guy who's kind of really got this scoop and reported on it and ran with it, and he's from On3. So maybe if we could get him on, or kind of hear his perspective, or if more stuff comes out, we'd have a better idea. For me, on the outside looking in, who just follows this stuff, I do think this is a demarcating line here. Fran Brown from Syracuse, his wide receivers in the portal. I guess he's asking for $2 million. No, Jeremiah Smith, or you called him what? You call him Buddy at Ohio State.
Yeah,
it's $2 million. I'm not paying $2 million for any college guy. It was great. I mean, that's classic Fran Brown. Of course, he's on Penn State's campus as we're recording here, and I would be hard pressed to say I wouldn't mind some money getting ponied up to go get him. But I do think we are seeing more and more, Tyson, where it's like you gotta either be like a Jeremiah Smith or somebody who's like, oh wow, we didn't quite know he was going to be that good. Sure, you proved at the college level we're going to pay you some money. I think the big money deals in recruiting, the big money deals from high profile players, I think those are going to start to go by the wayside a little bit during rev share. And maybe that's just me being optimistic about this whole thing. But I think this is a demarcating line, Tyson, because how many people have you said coming in that Nico would be kicked out of Tennessee basically because he didn't perform well? Because if he performs well, are we even having this conversation?
Yeah, they give him $4 million. Like if he was otherworldly last season, like $4 million would command, then they give him $4 million. Dude, it's hard to, because we are not in the conversation. We don't know how these like contracts or agreements look. And so like you could say, oh, they should do incentives, or again, one school should have to pay the smaller school or whoever is losing the player money, but that requires so much more legality in this whole situation that just doesn't exist. And so maybe that's coming, like we all want, but I think it's also really good for like these Power Four conferences to still have the NCAA shield to blame this whole thing on when they're kind of the ones doing this stuff, man. Like it is, yes, it's the NCAA's problem and their problem to fix, but like they get to take all the bullets for the way this works, and these big schools are just going to keep picking off and picking on each other. Dude, like 70% of NCAA basketball players enter the portal. Like it's just, we're at a point where it's just like, the cool thing about college sports is you root for a university or a place and the team that is there more so than you root for people. But it's still nice to be able to know the names of some guys year over year. I mean, we're getting to the point where it's like we might as well just have a 12-team all-star game at the end of the season because that's where it's going.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'll be curious to follow this along. I mean, I don't think this is going to be the first sort of thing that we hear about some high profile players asking for money, because the other thing is too, Tyson, I think in the past it was like, oh, and this was like the public perception, these kids are getting taken advantage of in college sports. They should really be getting paid. And I think it's gone the other way where it's like, how much money can these guys be demanding when they haven't done anything? I think they're flipped on them. And I think we're going to see more schools being able to push back publicly, because I think more people will be on the side of the school where it's like, what are you talking about? What are you asking for so much money? You got to go out there and play.
I think like from the beginning, I've been saying that people that have said that, they're talking about Reggie Bush and Vince Young and like Terrell Pryor and stuff. They're not talking about the left guard or the second string middle linebacker or whatever. And like maybe those, like if they're driving revenue, then sure, like that, it makes complete sense for them to get maybe a little bit more than just the free education or whatever that the scholarship provides. But like it was so easy when it was like, oh, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase should be making this much money when they're at LSU. And it's like, yeah, but how much should Sadiq Charles be getting paid? Like, how do you quantify some of these other guys? And now we're at the point where some of these guys, you want to go be wide receiver 3 for $740,000? Like it doesn't make any sense.
It's interesting. And I think for a while there, we talked
about the season's like 10 games long. And then like, if you make the conference championship in the playoffs, like, or whatever, you get to play 14 games. Like, how are they driving in enough money to pay some like these reported deals and contracts and stuff? It's like there's so many other entities involved in this whole thing. It's like too far gone before we even got a chance to like see what it was.
I know, and I don't know. It's too far out of the barn to get back in. Yes. Right? Like we're in this now.
Horse has left the barn, brother.
It's out and it's bucking, and I don't know if anybody's going to tame that Mustang, man. Like, we got the Kentucky Derby coming up, man. I don't know if he's riding this horse to victory, but I think this is going to be the jockey's bucked off, and that might just be a DQ.
I think he's dead.
The rev share, I'm curious to see. Now, I don't know all the details. I don't know how that really is going to impact NIL. I know that from what I've gathered, this is an attempt by the NCAA to pay the athletes while also getting rid of these collectives, where it's like, okay, we know from TV contracts or money generated, whatever the case may be, okay, you get a percentage of this to the athletes. That feels a bit more fair. But the name, image, likeness, no, you shouldn't be suspended or lose your Heisman Trophy because you signed autographs. Like, I think we're
got tattoos.
But like, you also shouldn't be holding a recruiting department hostage because you want $1 million and one other school is willing to pay $100,000 more. So you're willing to throw away an opportunity at a perfect place for you. It's just a mess, man. And to bring it all back in and to kind of close the chapter on this episode, because I think we're going to have plenty more. The fact that it was somebody like Nico Iamaleava that is at the forefront when people know his name, when he's at a university like Tennessee, and for Tennessee to push back and say no, I do think that is a big moment as we look back on NIL 20 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years from now. I do think this will be like a case study in a book and say, hey, that moment was important.
I can't believe we just got through that whole thing without making Iamaleava joke.
And we said that. The funny thing is, we said it the first time when we talked about Nico in Tennessee. We're like, after 1 year. Oh, God. So, all right.
We got to be more careful, brother.
I know.
We got to do better.
We're sorry, Tennessee fans, but maybe on the side in the comments, if you want to see a program crumble, I don't know. We'll speak it into existence.
Brother, you've been trying to crush Ohio State for as long as I've known you, and it hasn't worked. We got lucky once.
That's true. That is true. But stay subscribed. So it's a single thing. Don't miss our next pontification potentially come true whatever year down the line or whatever the case may be. Smash the like button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to podcast form, give us a 5-star rating if you don't mind. Tony, appreciate you guys who have done that already. Share it with a friend. Share it with an enemy. You guys know the drill. Good stuff coming out. That's why you can't miss a single thing. NFL draft, NBA playoffs. You know the drill, guys. We got you covered everything in the sports world. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.